Hello and welcome to Notice Tonight, the show that decodes the region. For the past 3 days, viewers, Notice Live has been relentlessly talking about the disappearance of 5 youths from Arunachal Pradesh from the remote Nacho area in Upper Subansiri district. The general belief is that the youths may have strayed across the McMahon line, which is the international border between India and China, and thereafter may have been captured by the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Confirmation of such a possibility has come in the form of a tweet from Union Minister Kiren Rijiju, who is an MP from Arunachal, when he said the Indian Army has sent a message over the hotline to their PLA counterparts positioned along the border and were awaiting a response. However, Beijing on Monday said they have no details available as yet on the matter and instead chose to once again reiterate its claim over Arunachal Pradesh, saying to China, Arunachal Pradesh was nothing but South Tibet. This has been China's usual claim, something that need not be taken seriously because it is a settled issue that Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India. The big question now is whether China would probe the matter and return the 5 Arunachali youths unharmed. After all, a few weeks ago, the Chinese have returned a youth, again from Arunachal, who had been in Chinese custody for around a fortnight. India has already demonstrated its human intent when it returned a flock of yaks on Monday that had strayed into the Arunachal side on the 31st of August. But will Beijing's response be different this time, considering there is no let-up in the standoff along the line of actual control in the Ladakh sector? Is this not an opportunity for the Chinese to de-escalate the standoff itself by returning the Indian nationals? What are the options before New Delhi? How do we get our men back safe and sound? To discuss the issue, I am joined from Itanagar by Arunachal BJP MP, Mr. Tapir Gao. In Pasighat, I have Congress MLA and former MP Mr. Ninong Ering. And from New Delhi, I am joined by Professor Swaran Singh from the Jawaharlal Nehru University, who is by far one of India's best known strategic analysts on China. Gentlemen, welcome to Notice Tonight. Let me go straight to you, Mr. Tapir Gao in Itanagar. Mr. Tapir Gao, this is an unprecedented situation. 5 youths from Arunachal Pradesh have gone missing from the 2nd or 3rd of September. India has put up a request to the PLA counterparts through the hotline, but Beijing says that it has no details available, it has nothing to share so far. So what is going on, Mr. Tapir Gao?
See, it is a confirmed case that our 5 youth has been abducted by the PLA from Upper Subansiri district from Naso area, and we are expecting that the government of India and the foreign minister and our army and state government and the central government should engage with the counterpart with China to bring back our 5 youths with safe sound immediately as early as possible, and this is the demand of the public and the people of Arunachal, and it should be the whole of the country's voice.
Absolutely. It should be the country's voice. That is what Mr. Tapir Gao is saying. It's not just an issue concerning Arunachal Pradesh. It is not just an issue concerning 5 youths from Arunachal Pradesh, but it is an issue of 5 Indian nationals currently being in the custody under mysterious circumstances of the Chinese PLA. Mr. Ninong Ering, you have been observing the situation along the India-China border, particularly in the Arunachal sector. How do you view this development, the sudden disappearance of the 5 youths, and how significant it is in view of the latest development along the line of actual control? Do you think the Chinese will respond differently this time?
The Chinese have always been like that. They are very, they will always try their best to to deviate from the main topic. We have said that 5 children of ours have been uh, kidnapped or abducted
Yeah.
or arrested. But the thing is that the way that they have responded when the hotline was given, as per the statement of Honorable Union Minister, because we have we don't have the details of that. But in his tweet, he had said that the Indian Army has given a kind of hotline they have discussed. But suddenly we see that the Chinese, the counterpart, उनका जो प्रवक्ता है वो तो सीधा he says that no, Arunachal is the southern Tibet, so we have no knowledge about these 5 boys, but Arunachal we don't want to discuss because it is part of the southern. Now this attitude itself shows the mentality, the mindset of the Chinese, that they have no that authority in regard to the relation with India. I think even the one that you can see just after 45 years, they started firing. I think this is the first incident, very unfortunate.
Right.
They have tried to best to keep a cordial relations, but they are not keeping that.
Right. So these viewers on the, you can see these visuals. We'll go back to these visuals of this Nacho area from where these 5 youths have been abducted. These are visuals exclusively we have been showing on our channel Northeast Live since the last 3 days. These are the pictures of the youths, some of the 5 youths who have been abducted and currently in custody of the PLA. These are exclusive pictures on your channel Northeast Live. Let me turn to Professor Swaran Singh. Professor Swaran Singh, for the first confirmation that that these 5 youths are possibly in the custody of the PLA from the Indian government came in the form of a tweet from Union Minister Kiren Rijiju, who incidentally is an MP from Arunachal Pradesh. He said that the Indian Army has sent a message over the hotline to their PLA counterpart positioned along the border. Now, in response to that, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman yesterday, that is Monday, denied any knowledge and saying that we don't have any details to share as yet. Now, what do you make of this? And instead, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman went on to say, oh, you see, the Arunachal is part of southern Tibet. Once again, tried to, reiterate that claim. So, what do you make of this Chinese response?
It is clearly unfortunate. It is, in fact, myopic that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson in Beijing, Cao Liqian, decided to use that as an opportunity to assert China's territorial claims on what he called Changnan, which is southern Tibet.
Right.
It's really not a good way of responding to what is fundamentally a human crisis. And I'm happy to note that on Indian side, across party lines, we have seen both representatives from the ruling party, BJP, as also the Congress leaders have been showing equal interest in this very sensitive issue right now. 5 Thagin youth disappearing, and now there is a certain evidence that they have been whisked away by the PLA across the line of actual control. I think it's fundamentally human crisis is how India is approaching it and how India wants to present it. And it's unfortunate that Chinese are connecting it to the ongoing tensions on the border, which is an interstate issue. It's not an issue between people. And you gave example of India returning yaks, for example, or Chinese returning another individual who had sort of crossed the line. I think the good thing we need to now do is make sure we put up a clear one position, because right now reports are, some of them are saying they were porters, others are saying they had gone on hunting. And then one is also talking about 2 people having returned and reported how the other 5 were whisked away by the PLA. So it has to now to be taken up, I think, at the very senior level, maybe the spokesperson of Indian Foreign Ministry, to give the official version of what is that has happened on the ground and present it as a humanitarian crisis. There are 5 individuals. They have nothing to do. They're not responsible for whatever tensions on the border are happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese side is beginning to connect it to the tensions on the border. It's very unfortunate.
Right. Let's have everybody on the screen. Let me go to Mr. Tapirgao. Mr. Tapirgao, you have heard, the veteran professor Swaran Singh saying that, India now has to take it up at a higher level. Maybe the Indian Foreign Ministry spokesman should come out with an official statement. Now, what do you expect? Because you are a very important leader of the BJP representing a very, very sensitive state like Arunachal Pradesh, Mr. Tapirgao. What will be your advice to the mandarins in the Indian External Affairs Ministry? What is your expectation? Are you going to take it up at least at the party level?
No, it's okay. We can take up it in the party level also. But I think our government of India, the concerned authority has already conveyed to the counterpart China, but it was unfortunate that the foreign minister spokesperson Lao Lijiao statement that Arunachal is South Tibet is a great mistake on the Chinese part. Just I will take 1 second for the history. During British India, Henry McMahon and His Holiness Dalai Lama's representative Paljar Dorji has signed an agreement in Shimla, which is popularly called Shimla Agreement, and the McMahon line has been drawn. The 5 youth has been abducted very much inside from below the McMahon, very much from the Indian territory, is a great blunder by the China. So entire country should take up this issue that if they are hurting our youth, shall violate the Geneva Agreement. And now during Henry and Paljar Dorji's agreement in 1914, there were no China in Tibet. In 1959, the China has forcefully, wrongfully occupied Tibet and doing blunder to the Tibetans. And today they are claiming Arunachal as their territory is a great blunder, and Arunachal shall remain, and Arunachal was remaining as an integral part of India. Right. So it's a baseless claim by foreign ministers, Chinese spokespersons has claimed Arunachal Pradesh.
Right.
So I am expecting that from army, from military, and from external affairs, and from other sources, India should engage with the China counterpart, and they should not violate the international law, doing any harm to our 5 youths whom they have abducted from Indian territory. So it is all our efforts should be joined together to get back our 5 youths, Indian citizens,
that is
without any harm and peace, with healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want our man unharmed, safe and sound. Before I go back once again to Professor Swaran Singh, Mr. Ninong Ering, what is your expectation from the government of India? First of all, what are the options before us? Because so far, only it is if we have to go by what Mr. Kiren Rijiju has said, it is only the Indian Army which has sent a message over the hotline to their counterparts, that is the PLA. But from the diplomatic channel, from the Ministry of External Affairs, we have not heard anything. So, what is your expectation from New Delhi at this point? Do you think any further delay is going to complicate the matter?
I'm grateful that you asked that question, because Kiren Rijiju he is our own MP, and also even though he is a union minister, it does not make us stay, because it is the the union government that has to speak. Either we have to give a spokesperson like Mr. Uh, Sambit Patra, kind of man who will really speak and say that this is the stand of the BJP or of the government. We cannot expect the Chinese to be lenient. We can't expect the Chinese to, because they have their own whims and fancies. But the Chinese also should know that the diplomatic relations that they have with India, they can't expect to, just kidnap our boys and, persecute them or, arrest them, abduct them. We pray to Gudoni Polo and we pray to God that the children should be returned safe and sound. And that is what the parents also want. I just spoke to the DC now and he said that we have not heard anything from them. We just heard that the army people have said that we have sent across the hotline. So that is the only information we got. I have tweeted to the Prime Minister, to the Home Minister, to the External Affairs Minister. I've even written to them. But even the previous letters also, it is in the cold storage. So it's very unfortunate that if this is the response of the central government, of course, my very good and learned friend and experienced friend, Shri Tapirgaon is here. He and Kiran Rijiju must pressurize the government that they have to make a statement. Because Chinese, they are always like that. They have this policy of aggression and expansion. And these are kind of a modus operandi for them to, expand their territories like that.
Right. Now, I'm going once again to Professor Swaran Singh, but Mr. Tapirgaon, are you in touch with your colleague, Mr. Kiren Rijiju? How do you ensure that the government of India makes a statement on this issue so as to, remove the apprehensions of the families and the general people in Arunachal Pradesh?
See, everyone is in touch with each other. And the government of Arunachal Pradesh is also in touch with the government of India. Now, we are waiting the good news from our counterpart. And they cannot hide our 5 Indian citizens. And they cannot lie to the world that they do not know anything. Because in the month of March, they has abducted one citizens from Asafila and later on they released after 40 days from Bumla. Now, one thing we need to be very clear that Chinese expansion policy, and we cannot trust the China. It's a matter of our all experimented policies that we have seen with the China is that first the entire world should stop the expansion policies of the China. And nobody can trust Chinese policy. On the one day they will say something and another day they will speak against their statement and see the event. During when Rajnathji was having meeting with Chinese counterpart in Moscow with the Russian defense ministers, and they are doing all these activities in our border areas, not only in Arunachal, throughout the entire border areas, they are having all these kind of activities. So it is their expansion policies that the world need to stop it, and world need to look into and work together to stop their expansion policies.
Right. Let me turn to Professor Swaran Singh. Professor Swaran Singh, Ninongering, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you in a minute. Professor Swaran Singh, do you expect the Chinese to behave differently this time than in normal times because of the continuing standoff? Because there is no let up in the standoff. Last night, that is on Monday night, there was supposed to have been a firing, absolutely unprovoked, firing by the PLA. And India exercised a lot of caution and restraint. So in view of this escalation reaching to this level, do you think the Chinese are going to behave or respond differently as far as the 5 Indian nationals are concerned, Indian nationals from Arunachal Pradesh are concerned?
Like several other China watchers, I have been completely surprised by Chinese behavior in last 3 to 4 months. There used to be a time when soldiers on the border, when they met each other,
Yeah.
used to simply, go their different ways. They used to even share sweets on occasions of celebrations of festivals and others. And now this completely different behavior of not just creating new gray areas on the border, ratcheting up on various points simultaneously, and now this escalation that happened in Galwan and now in Chushul area. So I would look at this episode in the same vein and believe the Chinese will perhaps try to use this again to their strategic advantage, and they are not looking at this as a humanitarian issue. It's crazy. Last 3 days, I understand that the local police has been investigating, looking around. So obviously, they have not found these 5 people. And 2 people, according to reports, who came back have said that other 5 were whisked away, taken away by the PLA. Now, these 5 people cannot just disappear in thin air. I mean, obviously, they are somewhere. So, worst case scenario is that PLA could come up with some kind of a, concocted accusations against these 5, but they deny that, these 5 men simply do not exist. So they are doing this delaying tactics, I suppose, and to then come up with some kind of concocted stories. Meanwhile, I think India has to take it to higher levels. Tomorrow, foreign ministers are meeting in Moscow again. We have to project this as a complete humanitarian issue for us. It's not part of politics. They are not responsible for any tensions on the border. These are simple 5 citizens of India, and their families need a respite. So I think that is how India has to approach it and completely disallow Chinese to turn this into a geopolitical issue relating it to tensions on the border. These 5 people need to be returned in case they have crossed over, and the evidence that we have now clearly says that they were taken away by PLA soldiers. They can deny it. They can't simply say they do not know anything about it. And these
Right.
days, borders are on extreme alert. They are watching constantly all the line of actual control. They cannot say that they were sleeping over when these 5 men have disappeared in their area. In such a high alert situation, they must have really found these 5 men, and they must respond in terms of what are they doing with these 5 men and return them as soon as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. No two ways, no doubt about that. But I'll go for a break, but before that, Mr. Tapirgao, as Professor Suran Singh was saying, that the 2 foreign ministers, the Indian and the Chinese foreign ministers, are meeting tomorrow. My question is, why is the Arunachal Chief Minister, Mr. Pema Khandu, silent? Because when the Chief Minister of a state raises this issue, it reaches a different level altogether. Don't you think that the Chief Minister should have gone public on this, made a statement at least on this issue, and put pressure on the government of India to take up this matter at a higher level? Or do you think he has certain compulsions?
Wasbir, no compulsion. Our Honorable Chief Minister is out of Itanagar, and he is in the not reachable area. He went to his father's accident site in the interior where there is network to observe a puja for his late Dorji Kandu's accident site. So we are also unable to contact him because there is no such connections and networks in that interior Himalaya area. So on behalf of Honorable Chief Minister Pema Khandu, our state government, from our all sources, we are working and we are communicating to Union government, and I hope External Affairs Minister and they are all the army also, I hope, and they are taking up the matter very seriously. Let's expect that some good results should come very soon.
Absolutely. We all hope good results will come very soon. I'll go for a short break. I'll be right back. Don't go away. I am in the middle of a very engaging conversation on the disappearance of 5 youths from Arunachal Pradesh who are believed to have been abducted by the Chinese PLA. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Mr. Ninong Ering, these kind of incidents are recurring with greater regularity. It has become almost a regular affair. Now, what should be done? What is a long and short term strategy? Because now the situation in the last, from starting from May, June, the situation is completely different along the India-China border. It's not just Arunachal sector. We are talking about Ladakh sector. We are talking about even Sikkim. There was a standoff in June. So what is going on? So what is your considered opinion? How should we approach? How should the government approach? Is there something lacking? What is your considered view?
I think I leave that to Mr. Swaran Singh because he is the analyst and the expert on that. Of course, I really sympathize with Tapir Gao and Kiran Rijiju because they are of the same party, they are the BJP, they are the government in the center, they are the government in the state. You are just referring that why Chief Minister is not speak on that. But already Home Minister has spoken. I have spoken to Deputy Chief Minister also, and they are all concerned. But the Honorable Chief Minister, he had just been recently to Pasirat and I discussed with him. And of course, the boys were not affected at that time. And he was saying that he's on a very long tour, it's about 15 days in his constituency. Because of the COVID, because of the flood situation, he had to go. But the reply of the central government is very vague. This is why we are angry. See, Priyanka, our leader, General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi, she tweeted that about the boys. My very good friend and younger brother, and also the deputy leader of the in the Parliament, Lok Sabha, Sri Gaurav Gogoi, has written a personal letter to the Honorable Prime Minister and also to the Raksha Mantri. And also, I have got a call from the office of Rahul Gandhi ji inquiring about these matters. So it is not, I'm not saying that it's a Congress or a BJP issue, but all our leaders have been concerned. They are writing to them because we are not in power. The people in the power is the 56 inch ka seena wale. We are not there. So if we were there, we are poor people, we are simple people, we would have tried to, negotiate it. But here we have the 56 inch ka seena.
But don't politicize the issue. Don't politicize the issue.
I'm not politicizing. This is an issue of, of a concern of Arunachal Pradesh, not of any, party. But I'm saying, why are they so vague? Why can't they reply? They have to give me a reply. They have not yet, or at least they should, a spokesperson should have at least taken the call. Why are they not saying anything?
Okay.
Are they afraid of China?
Yeah, let me take this to Tapir Gao ji. Tapir Gao ji, let me get a response from Mr. Tapir Gao. Mr. Tapir Gao, what Mr. Ninong Ering is saying. Ninong Ering is saying that everybody is concerned, and he is also saying that it is not a Congress or BJP issue. But he is raising a question. His question is, why is the government not responding to this issue in a much more specific and slightly more clearer manner? Because so far from the central government, we only have the tweet from Mr. Kiran Rijiju and we don't have anything else. So that is what I think Mr. Ninong Ering wants to understand. Can we understand from you, what are your thoughts?
See, my thought is very clear, and my thought is our parties and the government's clear concept is there. My elder brother Ninong Ering need a drum beat from Delhi to let the world knows. But he should also knows that Modi works very silently. Up air strike ho, या surgical strike ho, Modi never speaks loud, and he perform and he exercise and he do the needful. So it's not the question of Congress and BJP, it's the question of our 5 youth abducted by the PLA should be released. And who will release it? Under the leadership of Modi ji only, his foreign secretary, his foreign minister, everyone is engaged. And I hope and we should get good result and good response from our counterpart also. So it should not be politicized, because there are many families who are crying for the law, for the abductions, and we should pray for their safe and sound and healthy life under the captive of PLA also. But our government is working for the return of our 5 youths. So we let's not expect that Modi should speak. Our external affairs minister should speak. Without speaking anything, if the purpose is served, if the 5 youths are returned with safe and sound, that's the require of the moment at this time.
Let me go to Professor Swaran Singh. Professor Swaran Singh, in today's day and age, unless you make a noise, do you expect anybody to respond? Because you see, these issues concerning the remote northeastern region hardly gets reflected in the so-called national media. You know, I use the word national media, I prefer to call them the metropolitan press or the metropolitan media. For example, if you look at the television stations in the country, nobody is talking about this issue. Our channel, we have been going relentlessly for the past 3 days trying to highlight this issue, and thanks to the participation of leaders like Mr. Tapir Gao and Mr. Ninong Ering, Mr. Baman Felix, who is the Home Minister of Arunachal Pradesh on the show, plus the community leaders from the Tagin community and others, they are all on our channel talking about this issue. Our job is to highlight this issue and leave things to the wisdom of our government so that the Chinese return our boys, our youths unharmed, safe and sound. That is our only objective. Now, how do you look at it? You know, because a lot of people are now saying, why is the government of India not coming out with a specific statement? Because the fact that a hotline message has been given amounts to almost accepting the fact that the Chinese have abducted. If that is so, why not come out with a little more clarity?
First of all, about media, we all understand the television channels templates have changed over last decade or more. That's not the point of discussion today.
Yeah.
Point of discussion today is 5 people who have been missing for almost 3 days plus now. And Government of India, by hotline, has already taken certain initiative. And I think we should also underline the fact that on this issue, there is bipartisan support. Both leaders of Congress have taken initiatives, and also leaders of the ruling BJP has taken initiatives. There is a minister in Central Council of Ministers who is a MP, Kiran Rijiju. He has tweeted and already informed all of us that hotline has been used in communicating to the PLA to help us find these 5 men and return them as soon as possible. What can we do, which is in our control, I think, is that the local level leaders should actually put in public platform the concrete information. For example, what exactly happened on the ground, people who were with them, people who knew any details, they should be brought and put on public platform so that there's an extreme clarity on what has happened on the ground. This could be both civil leaders, but also senior officers of the police, and I think elected leaders could kind of do that coordination, where we put up the facts, which I think, given the social media, as you mentioned, the power of media today, we can put up these things in public space so that everybody gets to know what is happening on the ground.
Yeah.
That automatically will also provide both the information, but also drive to the central government to then take that issue forward. And they are already taking it forward, but I think if it doesn't get resolved in next 24 hours, I will say before the 2 foreign ministers meet, I assume that then this should be raised at the foreign ministers meeting also, or in other platforms at the global level. There are several platforms meant to addressing such humanitarian crisis between the nations. And I think if it doesn't get resolved in a bilateral communication, then it has to go to some other multilateral forums. This indeed can become very costly to China, because already not just the world is angry with China, but the world is also angry with China because of its human rights related issues across its minorities. So this could actually boomerang and cost enormously to the Chinese reputation, which is already under stress. But I will keep saying that it's a humanitarian issue. We should not relate it to the tensions on the border. It seems China is trying to look at it from that perspective, and sort of, which is very unfair way of dealing and addressing an issue of this nature. From our side, I think we should work out from the ground level right way up to the government to put facts on the ground, put facts in public space, so that automatically, there is a certain environment in which government of India will then
Right.
get more ready to take on issues beyond the bilateral. I hope that it gets resolved within the bilateral. It's a great opportunity for China to take such an initiative to create positive atmosphere.
Yes.
To stabilize the situation on the border.
Yes.
They can actually use this to earn some goodwill with India. But apparently, from the statement that came yesterday from the foreign ministry spokesperson, seems to show very different orientation of looking at this issue. I hope they will change that orientation that they showed in their Monday briefing to the press.
Right.
And they should also sort of share whatever information they have. I cannot believe in such high alert situation on the border, PLA is saying they know nothing about these 5 people.
Absolutely. Mr. Ninong Ering, do you think the decision, as Professor Swaran Singh has said, it's a great opportunity for China actually to de-escalate the situation, improve its image, and demonstrate its human side, because there is a necessity, there is a need to de-link the two issues, the standoff at the border and the humanitarian issue of 5 youths being kidnapped. These are two separate issues, as Professor has already said right at the beginning, because these are two different issues. Do you think it is a great opportunity for China also to demonstrate its intent and de-escalate the standoff?
I fully support Swaran Singh ji. I think that is why I always before also I said that I think we should take their expert suggestions and advice, and the way the only way of escalating this standoff is by having diplomatic. If we don't have the diplomatic relations, or we cannot solve it arbitrarily or through diplomatic with a diplomatic mindset, it's very difficult. What our people demand, what I think even the youth and other Uttar Pradesh ministry has said, is they're only demanding that the children should be returned safe and sound, and that is what each and every Arunachali thinks. Of course, I was very much angry and annoyed with a tweet of Mr. Zhao's comment that regarding the southern Tibet one, and I also got slightly aggrieved and I wrote back. But frankly speaking, when these 5 boys were kidnapped or abducted, the first one who gave the tweet, and I wrote to the PMO and also, and the national media picked up. Of course, the national media is busy with the Susan case and Ria case, and they don't give much importance to us, to the Northeast. I think I'm very grateful to the Northeast Live that at least you are raising the voice of the Northeast. I'm sure everyone in India also is watching the Northeast Live, and through the Facebook and WhatsApp, I'm sure the message will go, and a good message will go even to the Chinese counterpart. We don't want war. We don't want any kinds of standout. It's the China who will be at loss, not us. We will not
Absolutely,
be at loss. We are happy with ourselves, but it's China who will be at loss.
Absolutely. I would also at this point put on record my sincere gratitude to people like you, Ninong Ering ji, Mr. Tapir Gao, Professor Swaran Singh, for spending time with us, taking time out, being on the program and giving their perspective, because we want the nation to listen, or nation to know what is going on in the northeastern region, how the people are concerned. It's not a question of 5 youths from Arunachal, as I have said, it's a question of 5 Indian nationals. Now, Tapir Gao ji, the same question goes to you. Do you think, these two issues should be looked at differently by the Chinese? One is the escalation of disputes along the border, the standoff, and this humanitarian crisis by kidnapping 5 innocent youths, who are not military people, who are innocent civilians, who may have trespassed India has already demonstrated that, okay, we can also return animals like yaks, which we did, which was a great gesture yesterday. The Chinese have also thanked the Indian army for returning the flock of yaks and the calves. So these are, here we are talking about humans. Entire families are in distress for last couple of days. Mr. Tapirgao.
Yeah, Wasbir, both the panelist members has rightly pointed out, whatever it may be, 5 citizens, the 5 youth from Arunachal, they are innocent and they went for hunting and collecting medicinal plants and all in the along the border area, and the PLA and the Chinese government must have a humanitarian feeling that they are not military persons, they are not intelligence people doing anything against the Chinese. They are only local indigenous tribal people of Arunachal Pradesh. They should have humanitarian feeling for these 5 guys. So they should release immediately for the good gestures of good neighboring countries. But I have got doubt, and but I expect and I hope that China must also have this feeling. See, one thing I really also, I along with Iring Sahab, I appreciate News Live. I am surprised, even in Parliament also I said it, all our media house in the metropolitan cities, most of the national television, they do not know where is Arunachal Pradesh. This is the situations in the country. So I expect that all the media house should also bring out all these issues and focus to the world to raise the voice for immediate safety release of our Indian citizens from Arunachal Pradesh abducted by the PLA. So this is a matter of questions for the nations also.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said there, Mr. Tapirgao. I'm the last few minutes of the show. Professor Swaran Singh, now, did you expect when the standoff was taking place after Galwan, did you expect the Chinese to resort to unprovoked firing that took place last night, that is on Monday night? So this is, where are we heading? The foreign ministers meeting is taking place in this backdrop of the firing incident, the Galwan incident, and now 5 youths being taken custody or being captured by the Chinese PLA.
As I said, it's really surprising because like several others, I have looked at China-India relations for several decades. And there was a certain understanding over a period of time between the forces on the border as they were patrolling. And there was an understanding between 2 foreign ministries. There was an understanding between 2 leaders. We were seeing informal summits happening. And now this COVID-19 and sudden change in behavior, where not one but multiple new sort of points of behavior are surprising us. So that's why I'm saying even a humanitarian issue like 5 men disappearing is being used for politics, for using it to reclaim the territories, which is I think very strange way of behaving in a situation like this. But let me also underline, because repeatedly mention is made that Northeast is absolutely ignored by rest of the country. At least among academia, in my university, without naming it, we receive lots of very bright young people from Northeast.
Yes.
And they are among the very visible ones. So I wouldn't say that, at least among my experience, and that Northeast doesn't sort of stand out. Many of them are really good. They stand out amongst our students. And so I would not be the one believing that Arunachal Pradesh is not known to most people in rest of the country. Yes, we are all ignorant on certain issues, and I'm sure there are people who then may perhaps say, I don't know where it is. But I think intelligentsia, the leadership of this country is fully in grip. And I am not a party person, but I think the enormous interest and visits that Prime Minister has undertaken in last 7 years to Northeast is an example by itself.
Absolutely.
So let me not go on talking on that issue. So What I'm underlining here is that, border in that part of India-China border, eastern sector is extremely sensitive. India is totally alive to that. It's just the case that right now the eastern sector is boiling, and much media focus and maybe even the government focus is on Ladakh. But that absolutely does not mean that anyone in India or the leadership in India of all parties is not awake to issues concerning the
Absolutely.
eastern sector, which involves Arunachal
Right.
Pradesh. And I am very hopeful, just like we have seen the bipartisan, unity in taking this issue forward. I'm
Correct.
sure either this will be resolved quickly, or you will see Government of India really taking it to other platforms to finally find a solution to it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Professor, absolutely. Finally, Ninongarenji, 20 seconds to you, last words.
My only request and prayers are that our 5 boys have to be returned without any harm. And I pray to Donny Polo that our central government will take action in releasing these boys back. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tapir Gaoji, tomorrow is the foreign ministers meeting between India and China. Indian and Chinese foreign ministers are meeting. Is the state government, is the party leadership going to give a formal representation by tonight?
Already the message has been conveyed to the government of India.
Yeah.
I think the matter will be in the agenda, or it should be in the agenda.
Absolutely. The matter should be in the agenda. That is what the BJP MP from Arunachal Pradesh is saying. The Indian and Chinese foreign ministers are meeting tomorrow, and the MP, Mr. Tapir Gao, is saying that the issue of the 5 Indian nationals from Arunachal Pradesh disappearing and possibly being in the custody of the Chinese PLA should be in the agenda of this Indian and Chinese foreign ministers talk. That is what he expects the Indian foreign minister or Indian external affairs minister to take it up. On that note, I thank all my panelists for participating in these engaging discussions on a very, very sensitive issue, the disappearance of 5 youths from Arunachal Pradesh. We all expect and pray that these youths are returned to India unharmed. And thanks, viewers, for watching the show. Good night and goodbye.